Hello, girls and boys. Welcome back to science. We're going to be learning more about microorganisms today. Now, we have already learned quite a bit, and last week you might remember we were learning about a whole bunch of things to do with antibiotics and penicillin. But today's lesson, we're going to go on to some new things. But before we do, I just want to revisit and consolidate what we have already learned, just because there is a lot of new information here, guys, and when I don't see you guys for quite a while, it's easy to forget from one lesson to the next. So we're going to have a look at what we did in our last lessons, do a little summary, and then get on to our new learning. Now, before we do, I'll just switch over to my big camera here. My bread that I did last week, you can actually see I definitely have mold growing on it now. There's some moldy spots there, and I've got some... Where are they? Yeah, mold on this side, mold down there, and a big piece of mold in the corner here. So this bread is getting moldier and moldier. There it is. Definitely getting moldier. Quite gross. Lots of little white mold on the back of it too. It's quite gross, but not actually as moldy as I thought it would get. Like, the preservatives are keeping the mold away quite a bit because it's been 2 weeks now. So if I'd got fresh bread, it would have gone moldier way faster. But that's okay. We still get to see it go moldy. All right, guys. Now let's have a look at our task for today. We have a slideshow in Google Classroom here called Microorganisms Week 8. Okay, by yourself, you can write your name there. This is basically where we're going to just touch upon some of the key things that we have learned about. Okay, I'll go back to my screen so we can see it. So here's the slide, Microorganisms Week 8. We're going to touch upon all the things that we've learned just because we normally had a glossary in the classroom where we kept key terms and key words, and we could go back and refer to them just to, make sure we remembered the things we'd learned and to brush up on it. But what we're going to do here is we're going to start with this one here. This one is called mold, okay? And here I actually want you to just write, what is mold? Write a bit of information. Now, you don't need to go searching too much. You can look up answers for this. Just be wary that if you do, sometimes these answers can be a bit complicated. And we're not obviously looking at these at a serious, like at a university or high school level. We just want a basic understanding of what is mold. So you might write something like this in there. Mold is a microorganism. Okay, or fair enough. Now we can hyphenate that if we'd like. Microorganism. What else? Okay. So you notice Google doesn't hyphenate it. It just depends on different places do, different places don't. But mold is a microorganism, but there's more than just that. Well, what else is mold? What other features of mold did we have? Okay, we learned about how it spreads. We learned about where it grows. If you're not sure, you can always go and search it up. Like here I go, I've just searched up define mold, the microbiology here. And what is mold? It says here, mold is a common type of fungus that thrives in moist, warm conditions. Now, boys and girls, what you are not allowed to do is you're not allowed to go like this. You're not allowed to copy that and then go paste like that. No good. No good. Do not do that, guys. I can tell. All right, I can tell. Don't just copy it. Instead, if you wanted to copy it, you could be like, all right, mold is a common type of fungus. Okay, I can write this in my own words. Okay, mold. So notice they actually using the American spelling of mold, M-O-L-D. We have a U in Australia. Mold is a type of fungus, and you can find it. You can find it in moist, warm conditions. Okay? Now, I spelled moist wrong. Now, that would be changing that into my own words. Okay? But, we don't even have to say it like that. We could say it like we did in class, our lessons last week. You'd say, it needs food and water and warmth to grow. Okay, and that makes sense. That's why moist and warm conditions, it thrives. Okay, so I want you to put the stuff in your own words, guys. I want you to understand what you're writing. And if you don't understand it, okay, then that's where you can either be asking me, sending me an email, or looking it up, or even asking someone at home to help you look it up. All right, once you've got a basic definition of what is this, I then just want you to throw a picture in here, okay? So if I put in mold, I'll do the American spelling so I get some more results here. You can find a picture that you'd like to represent it and put it in there. Maybe you want mold on food. Okay, here's some moldy bread. I'll get this one. Copy an image. Okay, chuck the picture on the other side. Bang, mold is done. Okay, now we've got a few other ones after this, okay? Now, we'll go through these a little bit together, but I'm not going to do them for you. You're going to have to do all of these. All right, the next one here is bacteria. Now, bacteria is another type of microorganism, okay? Bacteria is often what we would refer to as germs, but we have good bacteria and bad bacteria. Some are good, some are bad, okay? Now, they can be found almost anywhere. There's so many different kinds of bacteria, they're all over the place, okay? So you can write something like that in. You write something in, look up some information if you'd like, put a picture in. Easy. Okay, now last week we learned about antibiotics. I'll put an S there. Antibiotics. We learned about the Aussies who discovered them and why they were so important. So I want you to write in there, what are antibiotics? Now, if you've forgotten, okay, antibiotics were actually a type of medicine, okay? There was a medicine that was made from mold, from a special type of mold, in this case, like they got microorganisms that were mold, and they made antibiotics of it. And then when you had antibiotics, it's like a medicine then, and it stops bacteria from spreading and growing, okay? So antibiotics would actually stop or even defeat bacteria, germs, or microorganisms, okay? So if you get a nasty bacterial infection, you would need to take antibiotics to make you better, okay? And some of you, I reckon, have had antibiotics before. So put a little bit of information down about it and search it up. Mostly when you search up antibiotics, you're going to get lots of medicine pictures. That's fine. Put it in. All good. Okay. Now, there was a special type of antibiotic that we learned about, penicillin. Okay. What is it? Well, penicillin was the first type of antibiotic to be invented, to be discovered specifically. And it was produced and saved a lot of people's lives. It is a type of antibiotic. Now, look up some more information about it if you want, but we don't need much there. This is just a refresh, okay? A little bit of information, chuck in a picture of some penicillin. Okay, maybe you want the penicillium, the mold that we got penicillin from, perhaps. Okay, put it in there. Okay, now they're the four main concepts that we are reviewing. We're going to introduce one new one today, okay? Now, the one we're going to look at today is actually the virus here. Now, the viruses are another type of microorganism, but we haven't really learned much about them. See, they are... Sorry, it's not the moldy one. I put another one in there to see if I could make anyone feel grossed out at home. It's just bread. It's fresh. Couldn't help myself. Viruses are another type of microorganism. They're actually smaller than bacteria, okay? So they're a very small microorganism, and they're different to bacteria in a key way. Now, bacteria or other microorganisms like them can land on something and can grow and flourish. You know, like mold, it gets somewhere, a microorganism, for example. If it's got food, if it's got water, it can grow and spread. Other types of bacteria can do that too. If there's enough food, if there's enough water, if there's enough warmth, it can grow and spread. Okay? But if viruses can't do that, viruses need to go inside something else that's alive and feed off of it. Okay? So a virus can't just grow by itself. If there's just some virus here, it's not going to grow. But if the virus got inside me, then it would actually start to infect me and spread inside me. Okay, so it can't spread unless it's got something to be inside to spread. Okay, so they invade living cells. So they actually get into other living cells and corrupt them and change them and then spread that way. They can't live by themselves. They need to leech off the life of something else. Okay, so viruses can be particularly nasty because the viruses, antibiotics don't stop viruses. If you get a bacteria infection, antibiotics will fix you. If you get a viral infection, a virus, antibiotics can't help. Okay, they can't help. Now, something like a cold is a virus. Okay. Now, a cold, when you get a cold, there is no medicine for a cold. You just need to rest and let your body get better. Your body will have the tools it needs to heal you, and it can get better. All right. Obviously, COVID is another type of virus. That's why antibiotics don't make people better. Okay, with them. So that's why people need to rest and be healthy so their body can cure them. Okay. Now, all I want you to do here is do a very basic thing of what is a virus, because we're actually going to do our whole next lesson is going to be about viruses. Okay, so this is just an introduction to a virus. So I would say something like a virus is a microorganism that is smaller than bacteria. Okay, and I'll say it invades living cells in order to spread. Okay? It can't spread by itself. It has to actually invade something else. Okay? So if you want to, you can just copy mine for virus. That's fine. Then when you go to Google and you look for pictures like this, if I type in a virus, probably the first one that's going to pop up if we go to images, yeah, it's going to be the COVID virus here. All right? That's what the COVID virus looks like. Okay. Now, I don't mind if you grab one of these pictures. Okay, that's totally fine. But just be cautious when you're looking up things like this. Don't just keep scrolling down really, really far, because the pictures can get weird and worse. And I don't want, I don't want the pictures to get bad. Okay, so let's just get a picture of what the virus looks like. There's lots of different viruses here. I'm going to, like I said, all of next lesson will be about them. So we will. We'll learn heaps more. Grab one picture, copy the image, and then you can put it inside here, and then that's no problem. All good. Okay. All right. So that is the end of your actual task that you need to work on. Okay. There is one extra activity down the bottom that I want to talk about, and this is actually going to be something to help you understand these microorganisms a little bit better, okay? Now, you don't have to write anything for this, but I do want you to click on and have a go on these yourself. There's 2 of them, okay? And these are to help you understand just how big, or in this case, how small microorganisms actually are. Yeah, we talk about microorganisms. They're so small we can't even see them, okay? And viruses are even smaller than bacteria or yeast, okay? So how small actually are they? And that's what this is about. If I go to the first one here, I've already opened it up. Here is an example here. I'll see if I can make this a bit bigger for you guys. There we go. Okay. Now, this is, look, someone holding a pin. Okay. Now, obviously, we can't see any microorganisms here, but what we can do is we can zoom into the pin, and they give you an idea of just how small microorganisms actually are. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a bit. You can see the pin's getting a bit bigger. Okay, as we zoom in more, you can see there's a hair on this pin, balancing on that pin. Let's keep zooming in. All right, now as we get quite close, you can see these bugs here. These are dust mites. Okay, dust mites can actually live in dirty or dusty places. They're all around the place, and sometimes. Okay, let's keep going, zooming in further. You can see there's a little speck here, smaller than a dust mite, far smaller. Okay, this is actually a piece of pollen, pollen from a flower. Okay, so it's still way smaller than that. We can't even see it. Now, as we get really small here, okay, we can see some of our microorganisms here. Okay, now the larger one here that you guys are familiar with is yeast. This one here is the yeast. Okay, so let's just look at the yeast. Okay, and see if you can keep looking at the yeast as I zoom out. Can you see where the yeast is? Okay, give you an idea of just how tiny these microorganisms are. Okay, now there's some other ones here. We can see yeast there, and then as we get further in, we've got the E. coli, these very, very tiny ones. Okay, this here is streptococcus virus. That's what they injected the mice with. No, that's a bacteria actually. Streptococcus bacteria. They injected the mice with that to see if the antibiotics worked. The Ebola virus is this here. You can see the viruses are much smaller than the bacteria. Okay? Much smaller in general. Okay? And then even these ones here, these are the rhinoviruses. This is much smaller again. The Ebola is actually one of the larger viruses. So really, really tiny, guys. Really tiny. Have a little look, have a little play with that. Maybe even show someone at home. It's pretty interesting. There's another one here that's actually, well, it's different. I think this gives you a pretty good idea too. This starts off with a coffee bean. This is a coffee bean and there's a grain of rice. Okay, this is the second one on the link here. Coffee bean, a grain of rice, a sesame seed, but then we can scroll this bar here to zoom in. Okay, see there's 1 grain of salt. Okay, we can see a grain of salt. It's small, but we can see it. Okay, but these ones under here are so much smaller. There's a grain of salt now. Okay, there's an amoeba. Okay, a human egg, skin cells. Okay, let's keep going in further. Red blood cells, X chromosome, and here's the yeast. Now, there's the one we know, the baker's yeast. This is tiny. Okay, watch the baker's yeast as I go out. Okay, it is really, really small. Okay, so much tinier than a grain of rice. Okay, and you can have a look at these. As this zooms in further and further, you can see the E. coli there again. Different types of things. You can look up some of these, but and the viruses down here are so much tinier. These, we're going to actually learn about some of these viruses next week. Okay, so really, really tiny antibodies, and then it gets down to other little things. We don't need to learn about carbon atoms or anything like that, but it does give you an idea of just how small the baker's yeast is in comparison to even a grain of rice. The only reason we could see the yeast in the classroom was because we had big piles of it. Okay? So, boys and girls, that is all we need to do today. This is quite a long video. So by the time you've watched this video and just put in those quick little information with pictures, then that'll easily be your half hour of science today. So boys and girls, please shoot me any questions if you get stuck. Otherwise, have a great day and I'll catch you later. See ya.